I just graduated high school last year, which is when what I'm about to tell you took place. Easter has always been a fun time of the year for my friends and I, but not for the reason you think. We've outgrown those childish Easter egg hunts that everyone does when they are little, and I honestly cringe when my parents make me participate in one with my younger cousins. A few years ago, I can't remember exactly when, my friend and I created a fun twist on the typical egg hunt format and devised our own game. It's not really that special, it's basically just a mashup of Manhunt and an Easter egg hunt. It's two teams, like Manhunt, but the Seekers are also responsible for hiding and protecting a few eggs. If the hiders manage to capture all the eggs, they win, and if the Seekers don't find all the hiders within a certain time frame, the hiders also win. There are some other dumb rules, like how the Seekers can't be camping where any of the eggs are hidden and stuff like that, but that's not super relevant to the story. It was the Thursday before Easter, and school was cancelled the next day for whatever reason, so we decided to have a sleepover that night. It was me, Jake, Race, Chuck, Arthur, and Raz. Raz wasn't actually his real name. His last name was Razi, but everyone just called him Raz. His family had the biggest house by far, so we'd always chill there. He lived in the middle of nowhere, and his backyard bordered a decently sized wooded area. Plus, his parents were out of town until Friday night, so we'd have the place to ourselves. We were just chilling, playing video games in his basement, when Chuck suggested we play Manhunt. We were all down, so we rounded up whatever flashlights Raz had in his garage. A sense of excitement, a familiar thrill, buzzed through us as we divided into teams. We used a random number generator on Jake's phone to pick random teams, just to keep it fair and unpredictable. I was on a team with Chuck and Raz, and we were seeking. Jake and Arthur were hiding. Raz's mom had a ton of plastic eggs upstairs, so we grabbed a couple of them, and all of us went outside. We'd played back there a bunch of times before, so we already knew the layout. The far boundary was the fence line, and the other edges were the creek and the back slope that ran down towards Raz's neighbor's horse pasture. We set timers on our phones to give the hiders enough time to hide, and as time to hide our eggs. Once 10 minutes passed, the game had officially begun. I should also mention that the sun had already gone down, but it wasn't completely dark out yet. A cold breeze rustled the leaves, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine as we scattered. Once the timer went off, we all split up to cover more ground. I veered left into a thicker patch of trees, while Raz and Chuck went the other way. I kept my hand over my flashlight, just skimming the ground every few steps so that I wouldn't trip, but I mostly relied on the moonlight to see. The game was way more fun when you actually felt like you were sneaking around. The adrenaline of the hunt, the quiet thrill of the chase, made my senses sharpen. And besides, if one of the hiders saw a flashlight beam coming toward them, they'd just book it. A few minutes in, I thought I saw something move 20 or 30 feet in front of me. My heart skipped a beat. At first, I couldn't tell if I was imagining it, but then I saw it again. A shadow, a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision. I instantly turned my flashlight off, frozen in place. My breath hitched in my throat. Someone was crouching behind a tree up ahead. Whoever it was must not have seen me. Otherwise, they definitely have run off. They weren't moving, like they were trying to stay perfectly still. My first guess was that it was Race. He always picked spots close to the Seekers, thinking no one would expect it. I decided to try to get the jump on him. A surge of anticipation, mixed with a hint of nervousness, coursed through me. I crouched down a bit myself and started moving slowly, trying to circle around behind him. The forest floor was uneven, twigs snapping softly under my feet. When I got close enough, I sprang forward and lunged at whoever was crouching there, tapping him hard on the shoulder and yelling, "Gotcha." But the second he turned around, I felt a wave of fear wash over me. My blood ran cold. It wasn't any of my friends. It was a grown man with slicked back hair and these wide, open eyes, like he was on drugs. His clothes were all torn up, and he smelled awful. A guttural sound escaped his lips, a low growl that sent shivers down my spine. I was so taken aback that I didn't even realize what was going on. My mind raced trying to process the impossible. Before I could react, he tackled me to the ground. The air whooshed out of my lungs. I screamed as I hit the dirt, the rough ground scraping against my skin, but before I could yell out again, his hands were around my throat. His grip was like iron, cutting off my air. He was pressing down with all his weight, and in that moment, I honestly thought my life was over. Panic seized me, I couldn't breathe, my vision blurred, and I didn't have the strength to overpower him from that position. And then, out of nowhere, he stopped. The pressure on my neck eased slightly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flashlight beam bouncing off the trees somewhere behind us. Hope flickered in my chest. One of my friends must have been running towards us. The guy must have seen the light too, because he jumped off without saying a word and straight up ran into the woods, disappearing almost immediately. I just laid there gasping for air, my body trembling, still too stunned to move. My throat burned, and my chest heaved as I fought to regain my breath. A few seconds later, Chuck reached me, his face a mask of concern, helped me up, and said he saw the whole thing. I wanted to chase after that guy, my adrenaline surging, a primal urge to flee warring with a desperate need for answers. But Chuck told me that was an awful idea. His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. So, the two of us instead ran back towards the house. Every shadow seemed to writhe with unseen menace. Chuck called the rest of the crew and told everyone to go back to Raz's house immediately. Once we all reconvened, the initial shock began to give way to a cold dread. I told everyone what happened, my voice still shaky, after Chuck filled in the rest of the gaps. Everyone started talking over each other, a cacophony of fear and disbelief, but then Arthur said something that shut all of us up. He said that before the game even started, meaning before the initial 10 minutes were up, he saw two people walking through the trees near where he was hiding. He said they were moving slowly, like they were scouting or waiting for something. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach, and he'd actually gotten pissed at the time because he thought it was two of the Seekers teaming up and breaking the rules. That's when me, Chuck, and Raz all looked at each other and immediately shook our heads. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, forming a disturbing picture. None of us had been working together, and there was no way we could have gotten all the way to their side in such a short time frame anyway. The realization hit us all at once. If it wasn't any of us, then there were at least 3 other people out in those woods that night. 1 who attacked me, and 2 more who were moving around before the game had even started. In that moment, I realized how smart I had been for listening to Chuck and not chasing after my attacker. A shiver ran down my spine as I imagined what might have happened if I had. He might have saved me from walking headfirst into an ambush. I told everyone we needed to call the cops. I had literally been attacked. My voice rose with a desperate urgency. But the second I said it, Raz cut me off. He got weirdly serious and said, "No, we're not calling anyone." I asked him what in the world he was talking about, my frustration and fear boiling over, and he said he was technically grounded, and beyond that, he wasn't allowed to host anyone while his parents were out of town. So, involving the cops would get him in serious hot water. I told him this was a serious situation and worth involving the police. Lives could be at stake. But he didn't budge. The rest of the guys were kind of stuck in the middle. No one wanted to put Raz in a bad spot with his parents, but I could tell that they were all having a hard time just pretending that the whole thing didn't happen. A heavy silence settled over us, thick with unspoken fear and disbelief. Eventually, I caved, my shoulders slumping in defeat, and agreed to not call the police and try to just enjoy the rest of the night. But I was seriously shaken. The image of those wide, manic eyes was burned into my memory. I ended up going to bed early that night, seeking the false comfort of sleep, and left Raz's house the next morning before anyone else was awake. This might surprise some of you, but I actually wasn't too affected by this experience. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I'm very much of the mentality that things happen and people have to move on. So that's what I did. I buried the fear, locked it away, and tried to forget. Anyway, about a week after everything went down, Raz told us all that he felt bad just leaving those Easter eggs out in the woods, so he had gone to collect them, even though he was scared out of his mind. We all got a good laugh out of that, a nervous, slightly hysterical laugh. But his comment made me think back to that night and contemplate my life a little. The fragility of it all. I have no idea what those men were doing in those woods that night. Their motives, their intentions remain a chilling mystery. But I can confidently say that I won't be spending the night at Raz's place anytime soon. The sense of vulnerability, the violation of that night, still lingers. Anyway, I'm at college now, and I'm far, far away from Raz's backyard, both physically and emotionally. But being as Easter is coming up next month, I got reminded of this. And the memory, though faded, still carries a weight of unease.